Bleacher Report released a new article titled Ranking NBA Bigs Under 25 with the Highest Ceilings. Two young Rockets were on that list, Alperen Sengun and Jabari Smith Jr. We're going to talk about their ranks. Were they too high, too low? I'm going to let y'all know. Tap in. Enjoy.
This is something I know.
So Bleacher Report made a list of their top 10 centers under 25, and two of our young bucks are on there with Jabari and Sengun. Now, just like, you know, with all potential videos or how high a guy's potential is, it's really not based on playing time. The way I look at it when I'm defining these types of stories or writings or whatever, is it's really based on if this guy, based on their physical stature and attributes, were to peak out and reach their maximum potential, how good would they be, right? So you can tell with the guys like Wemby being 7'5", with all the dribbling, shooting, he's going to get bigger, et cetera, et cetera. You can imagine that he's going to become just like the super player. Maybe not. He may just be a bust. He may suck, but we don't know. But if you're talking about potential, a lot of it has to do with physical attributes. So I can see why they would put the Wembys at the number one, the Zion, you know what I mean? But we've seen Zion. It's really, Zion is amazing. He's a really like a force in the NBA. I'm not really sure what his full potential is. Is he already peaked as a potential? Is there a world where he gets better? Maybe his shooting gets better, his defense gets better, he gets in shape. But really can't tell. The Chet thing, you know what I mean? I think that's a bit of a reach. Evan Mobley's a reach in my opinion. There's really nothing physically dominant about him. I think Jaren Jackson at 5 is a bit too low for him because you've already seen something. I give more credit to guys that I've seen some of their potential already. Now, Jabari at 6, right? Jabari at 6 and Alp at 8. Is that appropriate? I honestly think potential-wise, yes. I think Jabari at 6 is something that is a realistic spot for him on this list, because once again, my definition, if you're talking about potential, you're looking at physical attributes. Jabari is damn near 6'11". You're talking about a guy that could shoot, could switch out on defense, guard probably at some point. He's going to be guard 1 through 5, and the shooting isn't great, but you know, the defensive potential, the shot making from different spots on the floor is what's great, right? His shot diet, when his shot diet is healthy, he's going to be a scary player. So that is what that potential looks like. And then Alperen Sengun, I think they dock him for his height and some of the defensive limitations, but he's just on this list purely off of offense. And I think the defense is a bit oversold as far as how people say how bad he is. I think he's just a young guy. He's a young guy that's figuring it out, and that's going to get better. So, you know, him being ahead of Onyeka Okongwu and Nick Claxton to me is kind of dumb, because honestly, it's not really saying anything. I would just say the list started at Alp. I think Walker Kessler should not be number 7. I think Alperen should be in front of him. I think 6 and 7 for Alperen and Jabari is perfectly fine with me. I'm okay with Evan Mobley. I think Jaren Jackson Jr. has already shown better potential than him. I think Jaren has a lot to add to his game. And then Chet, Zion, and Wemby, those are self-explanatory. So, the question then is like, what does, Jabari's potential look like? What does Alp's potential look like? I think we've gotten glimpses of this a little bit this season. If you think about it, a lot of, what we saw against from our guys under Coach Silas was them, like, I've said this a million times. These are guys being used out of position, not being able to play to their strengths. And we saw flashes of them being good at certain things, but just not enough to really draw any major conclusions from them. But you do get to kind of, if you want to talk about potential, if these things were to increase in frequency and you scale up based on their base skill set, what they already do well, then you can see how a guy like Jabari Smith Jr., for example, can become maybe not like a LeBron type star, but can be a star player in the NBA, a guy that is known and scouted for around the league. And if you guys remember, this is me from day one, and I'm gonna keep saying this till it happens. Jabari is going to end up being a tweener 4 and 5. right? A lot of people see him scaling down to a 3. I think he can play the 3. I just don't see that as his like, as he grows and his body fills in, that 3 is going to be real tough for him to sustain on long stretches. I think he can be out on the perimeter guarding shooting guards and point guards and small forwards in spots, right? In spots. But I liked how he was used in Summer League, where he was used as the 5 on defense, guarding, like when they played Detroit, he was guarding Duren and Wiseman, him and the other big, I think Huff was still playing at that point. But he was switching out on that. And that's exactly the vision I see for Jabari. That's exactly the vision I see from Jabari. And I'm pairing that with what I've seen from Alp in the Turkish games that they were playing in their tournaments for the Olympics friendlies, and this is what allows me to see what they can become as a duo, because I see that both of them actually complement each other very well, both on offense and on defense. And speaking of, if we want to look at some of the things that Jabari does do well, it's simply put, I think the best place that he's shown an affinity to become just a player that we think he can be is in a post up. And this goes back to what I was, saying earlier. I think he's going to be a 4/5. I think that's, as his body fills out, this is where he's going to be. And I think where he gets his skewing the defense is not going to be from him hitting just a million threes. Now, the 3-pointer is going to be there. I'm still not worried about his shot, even though he hasn't shot well to this point in his NBA career. The 3-pointer is going to be there. I'm not worried about that. But I think that just him spacing the floor as a 3-point shooter isn't going to be good enough for him to reach his potential. What you want to see is, how can Jabari draw a double team? How can he draw a double team? And to me, the only way I see him drawing a double team is him getting in the post and using his height and high release to his advantage, right? And I've spoke on this before. Jabari is actually a really good post player, right? In the NBA, he's a good post player. This is a part of his game that actually was positive from last year. Not a lot was positive coming out last year, but this part of his game was positive. He shot 49% from the post, on his field goal percentage, which is pretty good. That's a pretty good percentage. 49% on his post field goal percentage, and this is something that I saw throughout the year. And you guys know I almost went crazy asking why aren't the Rockets featuring him more in the post and in other locations. Then I found out that the coach doesn't draw plays for him, right? So almost fell over my chair. So 49% in the post, and I was curious just to see like what are the games that Jabari has gotten the most post touches. This is Phoenix on December 2nd. He got 4 touches in a post. This is Cleveland on January 26th, 4 touches in a post. This is Detroit on January 29th, 5 touches. This is Detroit again on March 31st, 6 touches. This is Denver on April 4th, 7 touches. And this is Charlotte on April 7th, 4 touches. So when he gets more than 4 touches in the post, guess what the Rockets record is? And this is in this sample size. It's only 6 games, but we're 5-1. We're 5-1 in those games when Jabari's getting more than 4 touches in a post. He usually hovers around 1 or 2 throughout the season, but when they actually put him in that position, and I think there's two reasons for that. Number one is that he's not doing damage at the 3-point line, missing a lot of shots. At the same time, in these games, a lot of times Jabari is a rhythm player, right? And guys have different ways to get in the rhythm. And it's no coincidence that some of his best box plus minuses are the games where he's actually getting a lot of touches in the post. Wow, how crazy is that? You put up a guy in position to be successful, and he actually is. So some of his best box plus minus, and this is irrelevant to his shooting splits from those games. In those games, he's shooting 45% from the field, only 28% from 3. Now keep that in mind. The threes have not come yet. The threes have not come yet. It's those post shots. Instead of forcing him to take more threes, is to put him in a position where we know you're struggling from the 3, but now we're going to put you in a spot where you can actually make a shot. In the games where he's getting more than 4 post touches, instead of the 2 he gets, he's taking less threes. So in those games, he's only averaging 3 3-pointers a game compared to his regular season average of all his games where he's averaging 5. So 2 less 3-pointers, 2 more post touches. He's a different player. It impacts the team so much more. And what that tells me is that the 3-point attempts that he's getting in some of these games is way too much. It's way too much because he's been typecast to be this 3-and-D wing when he's just a frail kid that is still figuring out what his skill and his niche is going to be in the NBA. I honestly think he's in the line of the old power forwards from the past, the Kevin Garnett's, Tim Duncan's, not to the extent of being like more tilted towards a big like a Tim Duncan was, or even a KG, for example, but almost like that Dirk Nowitzki, that Chris Bosh kind of, he's a big, but he's leaning more towards being a wing. And to me, that's his skill set there. That's the superpower. And that's going to come in that mid post. So less threes for Jabari. Let the threes flow in the rhythm of a game. We know he likes to do the walk-up threes. We know he likes to, get into certain spots from the court where he's actually a decent shooter from three. But just having him jack up a bunch of threes at this point in his career, to me, is not ideal for his development. So I'm telling y'all, that is where he's going to make his money. We saw the glimpses of it in the summer league. That's where he's going to make his money. He's going to be in that mid to high post, not taking as many threes as he did last year. Maybe this season coming up, 3 to 4 threes a game should be just right for him. And I look for Coach Udoka to try to get him integrated into the offense by running some actions to get him some mismatches. How do you do that? Have him screening the ball like you did in Summer League. Let him be the ball screener. When he gets a smaller on him, maybe you set a screen for Jalen, and then you can pin Jalen's man into a post-up play where they have to commit a double team. Those are the creative ways you want to see him being used instead of just pick and pop or just space in a corner. So I think Jabari at number 6 on this list is appropriate, is definitely appropriate. So for Sengun, I would have him at 7 as far as just potential, in front of Walker Kessler. I don't think Walker Kessler. I think Walker Kessler belongs at the top end with the Nick Claxtons of the world. To me, the offensive game isn't there. The Evan Mobley one, I think Evan Mobley, I was a big Evan Mobley guy coming out. He hasn't really impressed me that much with his career so far. Really disappointed in his playoff run. Not even because of his scoring. Evan was just really disappointing on the boards. He just got bullied by the Knicks. They really bullied him. And for me, as a big man rebounding, him and Jared Allen were just punked on the glass. But that's to me, you don't need to be a 10-year vet to be a dog on the glass. Hell, the Rockets were good rebounders and we sucked at everything else. So for me, seeing that with Evan Mobley, I don't know. I think he might be a bit higher, too high on the list. I'd like to see more from him. But regardless of where Alp stands, to me, yes, he is one of the top 6 or 7 best big men that's under 25 in the NBA right now. That's not a stretch to even say. And for him, his thing is definitely going to be, where does he fit within the context of the offense and how is he used? If you guys have seen the video I made about, his team's play against, some of those other countries and how the coach of Turkey is using him, I think that's exactly the way that I'd like to see him being used. He doesn't have to be the guy that's, getting 1 million shots, right? He doesn't need to be taking 25 shots a game to be effective. Just involve him in the offense. And there's so many ways you could do that, whether him as a screener, him as a short roller, him in the post. And when he gets in the post, cut, run some off-ball action to keep the defense honest, and then just let him use his skill set to dominate and do what he does. Once again, putting guys in position to be successful. One of the things that we don't really notice how good some of the things he does is, but Alp is really, really good. He's good in the post. One of the better players in the NBA in the post. I was looking through Synergy and saw that, for players that have 300 or more post possessions in the NBA, it's not a lot of players that even get into that range where they're trusted enough to post up that much. Alp ranks, top 6 if you include passes in points per possession. Right, if this include him generating assists and things like that, and he's behind, you look at this list: Nikola Jokic at number 1, Joel Embiid at number 2, Luka at number 3, Giannis at number 4, Vucevic at 5, and Alp at 6. Now, this is a second-year player on one of the worst teams in the NBA. How does he pop up on these lists? Right, it's a short list, but why is his name on there? Because he's really, really good at what he does. And if you look at his field goal percentage in the post-ups, with including passes, he's ranks 3rd in field goal percentage. So it's really just, leaning into that. I'm curious to see what Coach Udoka is going to do with that. I've seen that the Rockets are real stubborn when it comes, well, the old regime. I don't know who that was behind. Was that Rafael Stone? Was that Coach Silas? Where they were real stubborn about what they wanted to do as a team and real rigid in their approach to that, despite not having the players. Some people said that was their tanking move. I honestly believe from some of the stuff I've been hearing that is just their MO. They have a certain philosophy and they want to stick to it. To me, that's stupid. That's foolish, right? I'm going to assume that all these basketball minds they have that they've hired on into the organization know better, and they know that, you have to basically, like Space always says, if you're a cook, man, you can't make a steak dinner if all you got is Spam, right? You got to have the right ingredients to cook what you're trying to cook, and you can't force something that's not there. It's just short-sighted. It's rigid. I don't like it. So my thing is that whatever your guys are good at, let's figure out how we can make everybody better at the same time. And I think leaning into Alp, his skill set as a post hub, a guy that you can run a lot of actions through, dribble handoffs, like I said, pick and roll, short roll, initiation out of the top of the key, and have him be kind of that center, that fulcrum there where guys are running off of and you're getting mismatches and generating shots. And then if you get Jalen looking like the star that he's looking like in the summer, then when they start trapping Jalen, you get Alp in a short roll. Now you kicking ass, right? Now you're kicking ass and taking names. So that is where, to me, that I want to see for him to really reach his full potential, and be the prospect that this Bleacher Report list thinks he can be. It has to be on the Rockets to lean into that. Will they do it? We don't know. But I'm curious to see how him and Jabari, because I think they really complement each other well on both ends of the court. Obviously, like Coach Udoka says, he's a guy that looks at what he has and tries to adjust to it. I'm curious to see what is he going to do, because I'm making the assumption they're going to use a lot of stuff they did in Boston, but there's a chance that he could totally switch it up, and just run something else. And I just want to see it. I want to see what that looks like. Are they going to run a lot of split action? I think that'll be great. Split action would be the best thing. Some motion, and run some triangle concepts with the fact that you have two dominant post players. And the triangle really works when that dominant post player like Alp is somebody that's a great passer. Then you can really go crazy with the guards and the wings that you have on this team, with the cutters, the shooters, the guys that can come off a screen and just pull up, like the Fred VanVleets of the world, the cutters with the Tari Eastons and Dylan Brookses of the world, the rim pressures with the Men Thompsons and Jalen Greens. You got the spacers with Kevin Porter Jr., hopefully Jabari Smith Jr. And the team is just built for that type of offense. We're going to see is it's going to be something where it's a lot of rigid stuff that's going on where they just force guys to do what they have to do, or is there going to be a little more creativity, which has been sorely lacked on the Houston Rockets. But once again, just another reason to be excited about the season. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Are the guys appropriately ranked, or are they too low, too high? Let me know in the comments, and appreciate all y'all for the prayers. Just want to let the Chop Shop family know we're going through a little thing here with my family, but it's all good. I'm not gonna divulge into it too much because I'm a pretty private guy, but just appreciate all the prayers and the support from you guys. Definitely feeling that, and man, excited for this season. Excited to talk some hoops. And y'all already know, keep rocking with the Chop Shop, and you're going to keep dropping that fire.